Hello everybody. I'll test the sound a little bit quick. Alright. It's good to be here. I'm proud of all of you young guys and the youth. Your thirst for knowledge, asking for more. I encourage you to do for the rest of your life, and happy to be here with all the energy, and hopefully we'll have some nice feedback and we'll have a nice trading of knowledge today with all the speakers, and hopefully you'll be very interested what I'm going to talk about to you guys. Football is a very important part of our social culture, and it's a very important part of our social interaction, because sport is something also we physically do, and we also talk about with our friends, and we watch with our friends and our family. When you talk about sports and also football, you talk about, your team, your local team, or another team in another league. It's also a global phenomenon, and as I said, it's a very part of our social culture. And it's been going on for more than 100 years. It's been going through wars, it's been going through civil wars, it's been going through technological changes, social changes. The first recorded professional international game is 1872 between Scotland and England. It's been 150 years. And football has seen 2 world wars so far in Europe, and many dictators and civil wars around the world. And it changed the part of our historical knowledge about the countries, and also it changed the countries itself. It has been a very important mark in most of the countries' histories. So let's start a little bit back. We started from 1872, Scotland versus England, 150 years ago. 150 years ago, a grass field is very hard to find, and most of the fields were dirt, and players were playing with flat shoes and very hard leather shoes and incredibly heavy leather balls. When it rains, when it waters down, it was very heavy to kick, and it was very heavy to play, and it was very heavy. The field was very heavy, and they were having many problems interacting, communicating tactically and physically. There was no fitness, there was no dietary supplements, they were basically just no training, and they were just going and playing once a week. So from there, around 1930s, after the World War I, a lot of Europeans actually had fled to South America. So in South America, especially the Hungarians that fled from the Germans, actually sparked a revolution in football. They integrated fitness into football. So the Brazilian culture of football and the Brazilian specialty of football, that's very athletic, very speed, very quick, actually roots all the way to back in the 1930s, what the Hungarians bring with their fitness regime. And from that, the Latin American football, the Argentinian and Brazilian football especially, brought a lot of tactical and physical changes. That brought to Hungary back in the 1940s and 1950s. Some of those Hungarian coaches went back to Europe after Europe went peaceful. So, especially in the 1950s, the Hungarians were the team in the world. They were unbeaten for over 40 games. They were literally scoring 5-6 goals to everybody. They're known as the mighty Magyars and the golden age of football. And most of the football revolution that even you see throughout these days was actually planted 70 years ago by the Hungarians national team. It's a very interesting story, as I'm going to talk to you about how the football is actually interpreting and putting technology into the football. Because the famous game, the Bern Miracle as it's called, 1954 World Cup game. The Hungarian team has been unbeaten for over 40 games, and they're playing against the West Germany. The West Germany, which they beat in the groups 5-2, which was, everybody was seeing as the Hungarian team as the complete favorite of the tournament and everything. But in 1954, in the final, something happened, which was actually confessed 60 years after the final by the athletics coach of the West Germany national team. He said they used doping and they used vitamin C supplements to increase the durability of their players against the Hungarians. The only way to beat the Hungarians was cheating. And also there was another very important technological advancement made in that game. The football shoes that we use today, the cleats as we call it, with the studs underneath, were not being used back then. And the game was under very rainy weather, very heavy field. Footballers were having problems staying up and they were sliding all over the field. Before the game, the brand as we know as the brothers, the Dassler brothers, which is one of them is Puma and the other one is Adidas. The Adidas brother, the older one, came to the German national team and said, use these shoes. It has studs, you won't slide, you will have technical advantage. And exactly that's what happened. They changed their shoes in the halftime. Hungary was beating 1-0. Germany beat Hungary 2-1 at the end of the game, and Hungary was defeated after 6 years, which is still the longest streak of national winning games. It's been 70 years and no one has been able to break that record yet. After that, 1954 National World Cup, then came the broadcasting and the TV rights in the 1970s, which brought football to the global phenomenon that we have today. Because everybody was able to watch the World Cup at their home, and also in color. You were able to see the players that everybody has been talking about, and you can actually watch them. That brought sponsors, that brought money, that brought globalization to the football. That technology changed football forever. Because of that, now the money is actually flowing through the football and to the players and the teams and everybody. New stadiums are being built, new players are being bought all over the world. Real Madrid, Barcelona, all the teams that we know, they are making so much money and they're actually buying all the good players right now. In the 80s is where we have the Maradona period, as some of the people may call it. Football had just started growing around the world, and Maradona was a big part of it. And the TV rights and the money. But the big thing came in the 90s, the Premier League, 1992. They made the league a company of its own, separate from the federation. That made the league so much money. 1992, from 30 years, the Premier League makes, from broadcasting rights alone, as much as the Turkish league makes by just selling it to the United States. So Premier League's United States broadcasting rights is more than Turkish league's global rights. That's how much money they're making right now. So that's also what's happening right now is all that money is going to the youth academies. All that money is going to dietary supplements. All that money is going to fitness. All that money is going to all these scientific advancements being made in football. Science is so much involved in football right now, which had no interest 50, 60 years ago. The only science they were using is a player is injured, let's treat him, let's heal him. That was the medical science, nothing else. No tactical, no physical, no sports science, nothing. Now, because of all this money flowing into the football, we are seeing so much advancement, such as now the teams actually are working with very big worldwide technology companies such as SAP or Microsoft and IBM, and they're making live analysis of their game. And during the halftime, coach is actually showing all the players what's happening on the field, play by play, and they can show the other team's analysis, live analysis, right away. This used to happen in the 80s. You want to watch the other team's game, you have to go to the game. Or, if it is broadcasted, the broadcasted tape, the VHS tape, had to be brought to you, which was taken 2 to 3 days, and then you have to watch the game, you have to write the report, and the analysis report was basically ready for your team before the game. Now, it's actually happening live right now. Also, there's another very important catching up with the technology thing. Because of advancement in sports science and also physical and medical science that's integrating with the football and sports, they can track the player's muscle mass, they can track the player's muscle tiredness, they can track player's fitness, and some of you who are actually more interested and have more knowledge about football, as some teams are doing rotation of their players. They're saying, oh, this player has been playing for 3 or 4 games, he has a common known injury from his past around his knee, and we have been seeing he's been putting a lot of pressure on his knee because of the tests they are doing. They can see that player has to rest. If he doesn't rest, there's a higher risk of injury. This is happening in football in the last 5 to 10 years. This was not available before. And this advancement is because thanks to Milan Labs. Milan did this in the beginning of 2000, and some of people call the legendary Milan squad. It was actually, most of them were old players, over 30 years old, 33, 34, 35 years old, very old players, and people weren't expecting them to perform that highly in that level. It was because of Milan Labs. And Milan Labs even found that players' teeth health is actually affecting their physical fitness. If you have bad teeth, if you have problems with your teeth, that can actually affect your performance on the field. So the technology is changing our football a lot. My part as a scout, that I worked with many professional clubs, a lot of different international agents, what happened is, in the 70s, 60s and 80s, there was no watching of players. It was just some guy was calling you and saying, hey, there's this kid, he's really good, you should ask him to come and give him a trial in your train. So the player was coming to the club to show himself to the coach and the president and everybody. But it changed. What happened is the broadcasting of the TVs. As I said, in the 70s and 80s it started. So people started watching them on TV. And also the planes, the roads, the buses, the cars, everything advanced. So that advancement also led to people traveling easily, which used to take, like for example, going to Istanbul from Bursa was taking 6 to 7 hours in the 90s. Now it takes 1.5, 2 hours tops. That changed that. That means I can go watch games in Istanbul from Bursa, 2 to 3 games a day, easily, and come back to Bursa to my house, which I wasn't able to do before. I had to go to Istanbul very early or overnight, watch the games, and possibly stay in Istanbul. That's what I had to do. But the technology made it available that I can actually watch the games very easily. Also now, thanks to the internet, which we had dial-up before, now you can almost every game around the world in these scouting platforms, anytime, as you wish. Which opens the opportunity of, instead of taking the player to your trial or watching the game and going, you can actually watch 30, 40, 50 games of the player easily and analysis of the player before you even see the player. When you have this high level of tactical analysis of a player, it's very easy to make a judgment and it's very easy to make a decision about the player. So when you have a predetermined data and predetermined decision about the player, when you watch the player live, you look at very little and important details, which actually requires a professional level of experience and a talent. When you look at those communication issues on the field, when you look at how is he dealing with the fans, how is he dealing with the pressure, when you're actually watching the player live now, you know how he plays. You know what he does. You know what is he going to do. What you are looking for is how well this player is going to fit into my team. Because when you look at a football team, on the field, it's 11 different guys. 11 different guys from 11 different backgrounds. Possible from 11 different cities, and maybe from 11 different countries. 11 different religions. Everything is different. A coach's job, a president's job, a director's job is to make sure these 11 players on the field, plus you have 20 more that's actually waiting to play, they have to mesh well and communicate well. So all these technology advancement actually made possible is, now we are seeing teams that are communicating very well, that are very fast, that are very quick, that are very strong. If you look at it, most of these teams, the way they play is the same they were playing 60, 70 years ago, maybe even 100 years ago. They're still playing the same football. What changes is the technology. The field changed. The shoes changed. The ball changed. The goals changed. The stadium changed. The shirts they wear changed. Their sports science changed. They're eating better. They're sleeping better. They're resting better. They are being analyzed constantly, 7/24. Social media interactions with the fans. They're bringing more revenue to their clubs through sponsors and everything. So all these advancements made our football today more enjoyable, more fun to watch, and it's a big part of our social culture right now. Thank you so much.